moving on. So we will continue with the question paper discussion section of soil science. So the first question, arrange the following atmospheric gases in terms of increasing global warming potential. Arrange these atmospheric gases in terms of increasing global warming potential. Options: methane, N2O, CO2 and S6. So first of all, we should know what is this global warming potential. So it is actually a measure of how much heat a greenhouse gas can trap in the atmosphere in comparison to that of carbon dioxide, specifically over a period of 100 years. So these are, I have given the list of this global warming potential of important gases. Carbon dioxide it is 1, methane it is 23, nitrous oxide it is 296, and perfluoromethane 5700, and sulfur hexafluoride it is 22,200. So if you know this table, it will be very easy for you guys to answer the question. In order to know more about this global warming potential from this table, I will take an example of methane. So here it is given that the methane's global warming potential is 23. What does it mean actually? In a period of 100 years, that 1 ton of methane which is emitted, it has the same warming effect as 23 tons of carbon dioxide over that same period. So this is what the global warming potential means. So from this table, we will be able to get the answer. So from the options here, we know that the carbon dioxide has got released and highest it is for perfluoromethane from the options. So from this table, it is well known that the carbon dioxide has got the lowest global warming potential and the highest is for S6. So the correct option is 1, which means the first lowest is for carbon dioxide and highest is for S6. The correct option is 1. Now moving to the second question. Here we have to correctly sequence the steps for georeferencing a map in the QGIS. So here there are different steps, and from this we have to find out the correct sequence. So if you know more about the QGIS, we know that the first step it is open the map where we want to do the georeferencing, and then the image has to be opened and we have to find out the control points, and last we have to select the transformation type. So if we know these steps, we will be able to clearly find out the answer. Here the correct option is 4, that means starting with C followed by B and ending with A, that means at last we have to select the proper transformation type. Now moving to the next question. This is an assertion reason type. Here the assertion is given as humic acid are more resistant than fulvic acid, and the reason they are mentioning is the humic acid have got low molecular weight and a simpler structure as compared to that of fulvic acid. So from this we have to find whether the assertion and reason are both correct or whether the reason is the correct explanation for the assertion. So here we know that humic acid are more resistant as compared to fulvic acid, but the reason they have mentioned it is wrong, because humic acid have got higher molecular weight and the structure it is also more complicated than the fulvic acid. So we should know that different parts of this humus, that is humic acid, fulvic acid and humin, these are the important byproducts of, or the final products of the organic matter, and based on the solubility also they have got difference, so we should refer that also. So the important fractions include humic acid, fulvic acid and humin, and based on the solubility also there is great differences. So in previous examinations, based on the solubility related questions were also asked. So in case of fulvic acid, they are soluble in both alkali as well as acid, whereas humic acid it is soluble only in alkaline solutions, and humin it is a part of fraction, or it is a fraction which is insoluble in both alkali and acid. That point also just keep in mind. Now the next question. We have to arrange these minerals in the order of decreased weathering index. So for that we should know that what is this weathering index. So this is a table which clearly shows the weathering index of different clay minerals. Here the lowest weathering index it is for gypsum and highest it is for anatase. But mostly we will be saying in case of kawonite, it is the most resistant phyllosilicate in mineral. And now in our question, if you look at this question, we can see that kawonite it has been given. So kawonite it has got the highest weathering index. So when you look at the option, it is 1, that means the lowest it is for gypsum and whereas highest it is for kawonite. And weathering index, along with weathering index, you should be familiar about the stability series also. Now moving to the next question. Arrange the soil in the decreasing order of soil wetness. So we have to arrange the soil in the decreasing order of their water content. Options include friable or firm, option B very plastic, option C hard, option D extremely hard. So in order to answer this question, we have to know about the plasticity concept. So we know that if the soil is very plastic, then the water content is more. So definitely the first answer should be very plastic. And at last, that should be extremely hard. So when we look at the options, the correct answer will come for the number 3, starting with very plastic and ending with extremely hard. That means at extremely hard stage, the wetness will be very low. So this is the explanations for that. The plasticity we can explain in 3 conditions, that is in wet soil, moist soil and in dry soil. In wet soil it comes to plasticity, and in moist soil these terms we have to study, that is loose, very friable or firm, because in options we had these terms friable or firm, and in that dry soil conditions the terms include loose, soft, slightly hard and extremely hard, and these 2 terms, that is hard and extremely hard, were also there in our options. So in the condition of extremely hard, there will be complete absence of water. Now the next question, here we are asked to arrange the soil texture with decreasing field capacity water content. That means the highest water content which is present in which soil, that has to become first, and the lowest water content in which soil has to come at the last. That's what we mean by decreasing field capacity water content. So we know that clay soil will be having the greater capacity to hold water. So we will look for the clay, that is D, and fortunately there is only one option with starting with D. So we can directly go for the answer, that is option 4. Now the next question, it is also a statement type question. Here the first statement is given as the alluvial soils are the largest groups of soils in India. So if you study about the different soil types in India, we will come to know that alluvial soil, it is of the great importance, or the largest group. And statement 2, they are given as alluvial soils are rich in nitrogen but deficient in potassium. So in order to know this, whether this statement is right or wrong, we should know about the properties of the alluvial soil. And mostly in alluvial soil, the texture of the soil is sandy, so probably there can be leaching loss of nitrogen. So that means this statement will not be true. Here it is said that alluvial soils are rich in nitrogen, but as the texture of alluvial soils are sandy, there can be leaching loss of nitrogen and the nitrogen content may be deficient. So here we can see that the statement 1, it is correct, but the statement 2 is incorrect. So all of you have to go through the different properties of different soils of India. These are important characteristics of alluvial soil, and the major constraints we are telling, it is the extreme sandy nature and hydrophication. Now the next question. Here also we have given 2 statements. This is an assertion reason type question. The assertion is the notation of Munsell color chart is 2.5 YR 5/6. And here in that term, the 2.5 YR means it represents the hue value, and whereas the 5 represents the value and 6 represents the chroma. So we know that Munsell color chart, it contains 3 parts, that is hue, value and color. So here that reason is also correct for the correct reason for the assertion. So here that option 1 is right, because both assertion and reason are true, and reason, it is the correct explanation for the assertion. Now the next question, given below are 2 statements. This is also an assertion reason type. So here the assertion they says the surface tension of water, that is very high, that is 72.7 times per centimeter compared to other liquids, and the reason they are saying is the high attraction of water molecules for each other, it is mainly because of the hydrogen bond. So we know both these statements are correct, and we should know the surface tension of water 72.7. Not only this, there are different other properties or different other parameters, like a specific value will be there. We have to go through all this, and so here the assertion and reason are true, and reason, it is a correct explanation for the assertion. So here our answer comes 1. Now next question, the characteristics of plinthite horizon are. So what is this plinthite horizon, we should know. So plinthite means it is an iron rich and humus poor clay mineral. So from these options we should know it is rich in humus, that option is not correct. It is poor in humus, and second, it is rich in sesquioxide, that is true. So we can take that option B. Then the presence of yellowish or greyish motifs, that is also true. And the option D is it hardens reversibly due to repeated wetting and drying. It will harden repeatedly wetting and drying, but it is not a reversible action. So here the answer comes 2, that means both B and C is the right answer. Plinthite means it is rich in sesquioxide, and also then we can see a presence of yellowish or greyish motifs. So the plinthite horizons will be almost similar to this. It is rich little iron. Now the next question, which law the industry is likely to cause environmental pollution should be examined by. This means this industries will be causing severe environmental pollution and that has to be regulated by which act? That is our question. Options: Factories Act of 1948, Water Act of 1974, Environment Protection Act of 1986 and the Air Act of 1981. So from the question itself, it is clear that it is related to environment. So the act is Environment Protection Act of 1986. So make sure that while you study different acts, also study this years also. Now, what will be the texture, soil texture, if it contains 60% clay, 20% silt and 20% sand particles? So we know that normally in order to find the soil texture, we will be going through the soil texture triangle. But in this case, in such questions, even without the help of soil texture triangle, we will be able to assess what the texture is. How means? We know that if a soil has to be sandy, at least minimum 70% sand content should be there. So here, out of clay, silt and sand, which is more dominant? Obviously it is clay content. So definitely the texture has to become clayey. So if a soil has to be clayey texture, minimum 35% clay should be there. And in our question, we have got 60% clay. So without any doubt, we can say that the texture belongs to clay. So option 2 is the right answer. Now the next question, this is also an assertion reason type. So here the assertion says Bacillus megatherium, it is an efficient P solubilizing bacteria, and the reason they are telling is Bacillus megatherium, it produces different organic acids for dissolution. So we know that for any mineral to be mineralized or solubilized, microorganism plays an important role, and how these microorganisms are influencing in the solubilization is they will produce different organic acids. So the COH group, it is influencing in the release of this or solubilization of nutrients. So here both assertion and reason are correct, and the reason, it is the correct explanation for the assertion. So our option is 1. Now coming to the next question. So here I have included most of the assertion reason type questions. So here the assertion says that the sky is blue due to scattering of sunlight. It is a fact we all know, and the reason they are telling is the sky reflects the sea and ocean which are blue, which we know it is not a right reason. So here the option is 3, that means our assertion is correct, but the reason is not the correct explanation for the assertion. So option 3 is the right answer. The next question, the soil hydraulic head, it is expressed by. So we know soil hydraulic head, it is related to potential energy, but when we look at the options, we will be getting more complicated. That is option A, it is potential energy per unit mass of soil water. Option B, potential energy per unit volume of soil water. Option C, it is a potential energy per unit weight of soil water. And we don't want to see the option D because it is related to height of standing water. But we know soil hydraulic head, it is more related to potential energy. And if you study the soil hydraulic concept clearly, then only we will be able to say the correct answer. Here the right answer is potential energy acting per unit weight of soil water. That only we will be expressing in the form of soil hydraulic head. This is some extra notes on the soil hydraulic head, which I have already mentioned. Now the next question. This is a match the following type question. Institutes are given and we have to correctly match with the headquarters where it is present. So the first institute is IIAS, that is Indian Institute of Soil Science. Many of you may be knowing it is situated in the Bhopal, and Indian Institute of Horticulture Research, it is present in Bangalore, and Central Research Institute for Dryland Agriculture, it is in Hyderabad, and CAZRI, that is Central Arid Zone Research Institute, it is in Jodhpur. So when you match this correctly, the option will come as option B. Now next question, we have to find out the right equation which is governing with the flow of water in the saturated soil. So options: Poisson's equation, Bernoulli's equation, Darcy's equation and the Stokes equation. So the flow of water in saturated condition, it is always influenced by the Darcy's equation. So correct answer is option 3. Whereas this Poisson's equation, it is describing actually the pressure curve which is caused due to viscosity, particularly in the laminar flow. Whereas Bernoulli's equation, it will describe the relationship between pressure, velocity and also about the elevation. But the saturated flow will be explained by Darcy's law. Now the next question, this is also a match the following type question. Here different methods of analysis, that is different methods of nutrient analysis is given in the first list, and we have to correctly match with which parameter or with which nutrient this method is being followed. So here general method, we know it is related with the estimation of nitrogen. Walklian black, it is with the estimation of organic carbon, and hydrometer, it is with the estimation of sedimentation of soil particle. And gravimetric method, it is one of the methods that we are following for the estimation of soil moisture. So the correct answer is option 3. Okay. That's for today, and we will continue in the coming classes. Thank you.